We are. All right. So I'm Ben. I'm doing Plz Use LDK. Yeah, shout out to Ben's. So I'm a big fan of LDK, but one of the problems, there isn't a lot of tooling. There's not like an easy way of like spinning up an LDK node and trying it out. So I thought I would add Sensei to Polar. So for people that don't know what Polar is, it's a really good testing environment where you can run a bunch of nodes in a sandbox environment, but it only supports 3 implementations. So I decided to add Sensei to it. I'm sure a lot of people have heard talks about Sensei, where you have a parent node that that shares resources with child nodes. So you have channel management and keys on these child nodes. So it's one of the LDK projects that is actively developed. If you use the sample node, it's not the best. It's just something you can spin up and try it out. Why we want to support Sensei and LDK. A lot of Lightning devs haven't used LDK. I went around and I asked about 35 people if they've used LDK or Polar. So about half of those used Polar, but so about like 20 people have used Polar, but only 5 people have used LDK, and one of them actually working on LDK. So, so it gets more people experimenting with LDK, trying it out. It gives John feedback. You know, if API is breaking, just hack away at it and like really play around with it. So if we go on to Polar, which, wow, this looks really small. All right, I don't know how I can zoom in on this, but if you can see very tiny over here, you can see Sensei now in Polar. So I can drag it in there and it actually spins up a Sensei node with some limitations. So there's some things about Sensei with the, when you like initialize Sensei, you can't give it a default username or password. So it kind of sits there. You don't get a macaroon to actually do anything. And it also stores it in a SQLite database encrypted. So it's hard to grab. But that's something John and I went back and forth on, and he's going to add those flags so that you can do something like in LND no seed backup, so you can do unauthenticated API calls. So some of the limitations, the username, password, and the API is a work in progress. So there's like a couple of little hacky things that you have to do and do a bunch of like default stuff. But going to be opening up a pull request as those stuff gets fixed. I know the API works. It's just with Docker and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll be having Sensei on Polar here pretty soon. Thank you.
Sensei Polar coming to a screen near you with a graphical user interface to make it easy for people like me to do cool things.